Good morning. This is the Innovation Conversation. Hey, Tom, how you doing?
I'm good, Kevin. How are you?
I'm pretty good, pretty good. So, well, better than the 9,000 people at Amazon who found out yesterday or the day before
Well,
that,
yeah, I guess yet to find out, right? They know it's
well,
coming, but they don't know who.
it's just, I mean,
Yeah,
9,000 on top of the 18,000, laying off 27,000 people. Well, the 9,000 they said is about 3%. So I guess that would mean they're laying off roughly at the end of the day, something like 9% of their workforce.
that's a big number.
You know,
Yeah, that's a big number. Although, if you think about the growth they've seen over the last few years, over hiring to that level,
right.
especially not quite understanding how dramatically the economy would turn against them. It's definitely, they've definitely frothy, too much hiring, but fairly reasonable, I suppose. But yeah, it's a big adjustment, that's for sure.
And the interesting thing was, I don't know what you made of it, the idea that they were laying off people from what are considered to be high growth divisions, AWS and advertising. And advertising really surprised me because that seemed to be a place where, um, first of all, they were making a lot of investments and also competing fairly aggressively with this retail media network burgeoning, segment that is happening in so many other retailers.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not surprised by that. I mean, clearly a massive growth area for the company. I think they were, well, the last reported results were something in the low 30 billions a year in volume. So you figure with their growth rate, you're probably talking about a 2023 number of north of 40 billion. And that's in a market that's probably right now between 50 and 60. I think Amazon's about at 80%, although they'll be lowering as you see Walmart and other retailers starting to really grow their businesses. Um, so I guess not surprising that they're slowing down there. Again, they still have a big share. They're still probably adding on a dollar basis, at least holding their own as far as the dollars go with competitors. Um, it's going to be an increasingly competitive business. I think that there's a couple of years probably where retail media in general is going to continue to see really a big growth because you have this pervasive shift from traditional media to retail media. So I think that's going to fuel a lot of growth, and Amazon will get a pretty good share of that. But I just think if you look, they have larger threats. I think longer term to their advertising business in general because we already see as a customer, right, how much it's impacting our customer experience and like they have to keep getting the dollars but they can't really keep doing it at the same way they are because I think as customers we're starting to not really appreciate the amount of advertising we're getting. So yeah, big, I think just lots of adjustment I think they're ultimately going to need to make there. And it'll be interesting to see where the staff they're reducing is coming from. Is it in innovation? Is it in the product side, or is it in the sales side,
Yeah.
sales and activation? And my guess is that's probably where more of it is because that's where a lot of the focus has been. But yeah, and then AWS, like you mentioned, historically big growth area, high profit. Um, it's just this world we're in right now where the market and customers are looking to save money. They've had this great benefit of everybody shifting from owning their own technology to leasing technology, and the cloud, that really fueled the growth of the cloud. Now that everybody's renting, everybody's just looking to spend less on the technology they're renting, and so that's going to be a little bit painful for a period of time. So it makes sense that they're tightening their belts there. I think they are going to need to continue to keep finding innovation areas and investing in those, and maybe this savings will help them do that.
It's interesting that they, well, one of the comments I made on Tuesday morning newsfeed is the money they're saving are probably going to go into all the lawyers' fees they're going to need because the FTC is just apparently just lining up their troops to challenge them on a whole number of levels. Um, it's also interesting to me that with all the conversation about ChatGPT and AI and various iterations, and now Google's out with theirs, and there's so many things going on. And clearly they've got to be doing stuff because they've got the Alexa based systems that are, have a toe in that market, but not to the degree that some of the new stuff seems to have. And they don't even seem to be part of that conversation, at least at the moment. And what it seemed to me, just an optics point of view, it would be important for them to sort of stake a claim in that area at this point.
Yeah, I think they're doing more than meets the eye.
Right.
I could be slightly wrong about that, but machine learning has been a key tenet at Amazon since I was there, many moons ago. And today, well, there's not going to be as much of it, but like when you apply for a job at Amazon,
Right.
right, and you go through all the steps of your submitting, of answering the ad, submitting your information, doing video interviews, all that. Like a lot of that process is done without a human.
Right.
Humans come in later after like folks have been vetted through multiple steps in the process. A lot of their customer service stuff is AI driven, not human driven.
Yeah.
And then obviously the shopping experience is very AI machine learning driven as well. So I think they're probably doing more there. Now I know there's another generation of that now that has different science under it. But my guess is they're doing more there. They're just not boasting as much about
Yeah.
it. If they're not, that I think will be problematic for them long term because they could find themselves 3 or 4 years from now, all of a sudden in a world where everything is more advanced and sexier than they are, and they're kind of this, I mean, we've seen how many times have we seen retail models, kind of one day wake up and find themselves, irrelevant.
Yeah.
You'd hate to see that happen to them.
Well, the entire supermarket industry. One day they woke up and Walmart owned it.
Yeah,
Or dominated it. Didn't own it,
yeah,
but it dominated it, and and people didn't expect that to happen.
right.
Well, that leads right into there was a fascinating column written by Martin Peers for the Information, and let me just read from it because I thought it was an interesting take on where the company is at the moment. Um, Basically, it says that Amazon has moved ahead of Alphabet in the contest to win this year's IBM Cup, awarded occasionally to the most bureaucratic and slow-moving big tech company around. And basically, he goes on to say that, he's talking about that's the one takeaway from the explanation about cutting another 9,000 jobs. Basically, he writes that Jassy explained that Amazon didn't cut the jobs all at once because not all the teams were done with their analyses. Jassy's explanation implies that Amazon took nearly 6 months to complete a planning review that is by definition meant to occur every year. It's a good thing Amazon's parcel deliveries don't operate on this leisurely time frame. And basically, and he says, listen, it's not surprising that Amazon's planning reviews take so long. It's become an absolute giant. But the problem is that sometimes giants move more slowly. And his conclusion is maybe it's time to bring back the company's day one culture. Um, I would imagine if you're at Amazon and you take pride in the fact that every day is day one, that would sting a little bit if it resonates. The larger question, it seems to me, is just, have they gotten to the point that they are so big, they've become such a behemoth that they are moving, they're not just moving more slowly, but maybe they've become a little bit lethargic, which is sort of what we see happening right now.
Well, I can see that. I can understand that criticism, and I'm not going to defend Amazon here fully. Um, I can see that criticism, and I definitely think they are a big time threat of being at day two.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. You see it. They're massive. They're in all these businesses. There are businesses that are getting, big time impacted by, current economic conditions. Um, you can't you can't always lean in and innovate your way through, current market conditions, especially at the size that you're at. So you do have to face realities that we got to change our cost structure. We got to be able to get lean where we can get lean, enable those businesses to keep growing, but then go find areas to invest in and put our capital there. So, I think that, they need to do that, but there's a lot of kind of day two, in that for sure. One thing I would say about Amazon's process though, and he mentioned OP2 in that email to the team. So Amazon has two annual planning processes, OP1 and OP2. OP1 happens in August, September, and October.
Right.
OP, that's one. Then you go into the holiday season, and then OP2 happens after the holidays.
Right.
So it happens from like mid-January to mid-late March. So you could say it's a process that takes a long time, but what it really is it's kind of a constant process that is done. We're gonna, you hear about these 6 pagers and all that. That's what these OP documents, especially OP1, is largely about the 6 pagers, the innovation, how we're going to be, out innovating ourselves and doing all these new things. That happens in the fall. Then they focus on the customer and holiday and execution for the season, and then they come back based on what they learned from the season. Seeing the economic conditions we're in today, and then OP2 is the final adjustments
Right.
they make, and then OP1 again starts that. So it's not like it was a 6 month process itself. I mean, there's just an iterative process.
Yeah. It is interesting. I mean, it does feel like, and I think that this is, I mean, and again, I'm not slamming Amazon in the sense, except to say that there is a sense that, and you work there, I didn't, right? But there is a sense like when they come together for those meetings, right, where everybody has to, write their
Yeah.
plan. Those plans, it just feels like the plans are more about where are we going to cut as opposed to where are we going to innovate. It just has that feeling about it. And
I agree. I agree. I think that we're absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt that that is a big part of it now.
right,
That it is, I mean, clearly Jassy's stated that, he has efficiency initiatives, and that was one of the things. I know you brought this up when he starts talking about being efficient over, what we're going to do for the customer.
yeah,
Is it time to start to worry? And clearly, you're seeing that as a key part of their planning process now,
yeah,
which is very, old company, traditional company, big company thinking.
yeah.
And they do have to be careful that that doesn't, that doesn't overtake, their customer centricity and their innovation.
Yeah. And the thing is that even small companies, right, can get trapped by bureaucracy, can get complacent, can get lethargic, and can, fall into the trap of, oh my God, we got to get back to fundamentals, as opposed to continuing to innovate, even if you're doing it more surgically than you have done it in the past. But I think that this is I mean, if I were a small retailer, and by small, I don't even know what I mean, and maybe less than top 10. This is a time to say, hey, the big guys have, are preoccupied. I mean, Albertsons and Kroger are preoccupied
Yeah.
with their merger. Amazon's dealing with this stuff. Walmart doesn't seem to be preoccupied by anything. So
No,
maybe,
I think Walmart's preoccupied with innovating, which
right?
is pretty.
They seem
Yeah.
to be. But if I'm anybody else, I'm thinking to myself, now's the time we got to try new things. We've got to innovate around the customer in a much more, if in a more surgical way, but in a much more deliberate and speedy way.
No
And
doubt.
because this is actually a great moment if you're not a behemoth.
Absolutely. And the customer, as much as Amazon's feeling pain, as much as companies are feeling pain of the current economic conditions we're in, your customer is feeling it.
Right.
So, and it's not just necessarily go out and slash prices, although you got to definitely prove to them and show them that you are providing them value for the time and money that they spend with you. But I think it's times like this where, innovation can have the best return,
Right.
right? Because you have customers just looking for solutions. And boy, if you can offer that to them and you can show them that you're looking out for them in times like today, massive, massive win.
Yeah. And I know I probably use them too often on Morning Newsbeat, because they're my local, they're like the retailer I go to the most. But Stu Leonard's and then Wegmans as well are the two companies that I have seen in terms of, and I get a lot of emails from a lot of companies, right? Because I'm on everybody's lists.
Yeah.
Those two companies have done such a good job of adjusting their message and actually sort of engaging the customer on the playing field that which we're all dealing, right? Which is the economic issues we're all
Yep.
facing. They've done such a good job. But I mean, I'll say right out. I mean, I have Stop and Shop in my backyard here. I never see, they, nothing has changed significantly in how they communicate with me.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of other retailers I see stuff from too, and it doesn't. Yeah, they have sales, but they're not really they're not looking at the customer saying, "We know you have issues here. I'm going to try to solve them for you,"
Yeah.
which is
Yeah. I think
a
it's huge.
huge
I was in
message.
a Schnook store yesterday, and I saw that messaging, and
Right,
to me it was really compelling. Yeah. It's that if now is the time to, if you're going to talk price and you're going to talk value, now's the time to do it.
right. The other question I wanted to ask you, and I've made this observation in Morning Newsbeat, and I wanted to kind of get your reaction to it, is I wonder if at some level, and again, it's not like Amazon's going to get out of retail, right? Or go back to just selling books and, well, DVDs. Right? I mean, it tells you how, I mean,
And DVD players.
right. And DVD play. That'd be good. Um, but it seems to me, I wonder if at some level, this is a moment where Amazon seems to be offering more and they always have, but maybe is considering getting into the services business to other retailers
Yeah.
even more than they have in the past. I mean, I know they're gonna, they're always at grocery shop, they're at Shop Talk, they were at NGA. Um, and I wonder if then the difference between doing all these initiatives on your own, where it costs you money, and providing the initiatives to other companies is when you get a check, is
Yeah.
if they're at a moment where they're concerned about, cash flow, is it likely that we'll see them putting even more of an emphasis on being in the services business?
I think there's no doubt you're going to see a big emphasis on the services business. And it is pretty typical. We've seen Amazon, they build all this web and e-commerce technology and then they lease that out, right? They build computing capacity and capabilities with AWS, for themselves, and then they lease it out with AWS. They build a fulfillment network and then they lease it out. So not surprising that the retail related stuff that they're doing, from just walk out to shopping cart technology to payments, and I'm sure there'll be more. I'm sure there probably already is more. It totally makes sense that they would do that. And um, and there's no, they don't, I think they're going to continue to try to find their physical retail strategy. So I don't see them giving up on that in the nearest term, just because of how important of an opportunity is long term for them. They may slow down how they go about it through this economy. They may be more deliberate. You may see more behind the curtain experimentation, less kind of out in front of the world. But that doesn't mean the technology innovations that they're doing along the way toward that endeavor shouldn't be turned, toward other retailers and leased out. I think they'll be good at it. They're very good. They're a very good product company, right? They build good stuff. So I think that could be a good business. There's competition there, of course. There's lots of providers of everything that they would provide, and of course, there's Instacart as in the grocery biz, or fast moving consumer goods business, doing lots of things toward that as well. So there'll be some real competition. It's going to come down to retailers. Do you trust Amazon as a partner when they're also, at least to some level,
Right.
A competitor? But having them in the business, though, offering that stuff, I think is good for just overall competition anyway.
And the thing that got me thinking this way was the fact that it was just a headline that somebody put on a story about Amazon. It wasn't my headline, but it was, the idea was that Amazon was going to provide fast delivery for Rite Aid.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it said that and to compete more effectively with Instacart, which I cracked up, and I'm sure the people at Instacart were going, wait a minute, they're backing up to compete with us because we're the big guy. I mean, it was like a weird sort of
Yeah,
construct, but it made me think that, boy, that if they decided to get really aggressive, and you're right, they would have all sorts of obstacles to kind of overcome, but there's things that they do.
yeah.
I mean, could they go to a retailer offer its own version of Prime? Could they do what would they call it? A white label,
Right.
white label version of Prime and providing the analytics and the algorithms that would allow an independent retailer to create its own loyalty marketing using that technology. I mean, I hate to say it because you're in the automatic replenishment business.
Yeah.
Could they decide to take subscribe and save, and figure out a way to market that to other retailers to provide auto replen.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. Although, and there's a lot of players out there that offer subscription technology. So, subscribe and save that other retailers can do. I wouldn't, from a competitive standpoint to Replenium, I wouldn't worry about it at all because, we're about automating full baskets. We're about automating your complete shopping trip across, our fastest moving categories are grocery, produce, dairy, frozen, right? All the traditional
three out
store
of
categories.
and 3 out of the 4 of those are not Amazon doesn't.
Yeah, that Amazon doesn't offer. And our average replenishment basket's every 2 weeks. Subscription starts at every month. Our average item setting. So, what is the replenishment interval of an individual item? Average is 20 days. We got a lot of stuff. Produce is a week. So, we're different. So I'd actually, if Amazon came out with it, it probably would waken the industry a little bit. So I'd actually be okay with that.
Yeah.
We've always approached auto replen as different. So that would be something Amazon could take out. Again, there's other competitors out there in that space, but there's lots of things Amazon does from a technology standpoint that they could bring out to others,
Right.
from the item catalog to the whole payment space. And I know Amazon already does a lot of stuff there. Things you could do around gifting, and there's just all kinds of capabilities Amazon can bring to the market.
Yeah. Although, and now as you say all that, and it makes a lot of sense, but it occurs to me that if they're already facing a lot of potential challenges from the FTC,
Yeah, that won't help things.
if they go into all that stuff, it's only going to create more legal issues, probably.
Right. Not only are we competing arguably unfairly, although I would argue against that, but we're competing at this level of scale and capability that gives us an unfair advantage. But then we're also providing our competitors with we're providing the technology to our competitors. Yeah, that feels like that'll potentially be a big reach. And then there'll be more discussions in the coming months and years too. Should Amazon break up?
Yeah.
Will that make them more agile? Would it make them less anti-competitive? Would it bring more value to shareholders? I mean, I do think those are questions they should ask themselves, right? Is their size, does it create synergies that create customer and shareholder value? And if so, hold on to those. But if you're not seeing customer and shareholder value created, maybe you do consider, breaking it up to some degree.
Yeah. Well, and it goes both ways, right? I mean, in a lot of ways, if you broke up AWS, let's say from the retail side,
yeah,
that might make an awful lot of sense in terms of shareholder value. But I think it could make a really good argument that it would make sense to actually integrate Whole Foods even more into the Amazon retail system. I mean, for example, why are they not offering subscription products out of Whole Foods if there are products that people are buying on a regular basis?
Yeah, well, they're not, because it's really hard. That's
right.
why we did Replenium. We tried to do it inside Amazon, and that wasn't going to happen.
Right.
That's why I left doing our own.
But you left before they had Whole Foods. Now they've got this,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, but we had fresh. Yeah, we did have fresh though, so we were at least in the category.
Yes.
And it was a different customer proposition. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, and this takes us in a different direction. I won't. But I mean, if Whole Foods is there's been some speculation, partially by former CEO John Mackey, that Amazon is going to have a heavier hand with Whole Foods. I'm not necessarily persuaded that is a bad idea. I think I don't know that. Again, it depends on how the heavy hand works.
Absolutely, it depends on what the impact is to the customer.
Right.
Right, and there's probably some ways that it would help the customer.
Right.
But there's probably a bunch of things that Whole Foods does that they should be doing more of.
Right.
That Amazon shouldn't get in the way of.
Okay. All right. Last question. Having nothing to do. I mean, listen, the world's going to hell in a handbasket. Amazon's laying off all these people. Banks are collapsing. All this stuff.
It's terrible.
But I know that the headline that you and I are focused mostly on is Edwin Diaz.
Oh my gosh.
And
I saw that come across the bottom of the screen when I was watching another World Baseball Classic game. I immediately went on and saw it, and you knew, even before any MRI or anything, you knew he was done for the year. I mean, he looked so dejected. His brother's crying.
Yeah.
We all cried those tears.
And But you got to say, it's the most Mets thing that you could possibly imagine happening,
Yeah.
right? It just felt like a totally Mets thing. But I mean, listen, maybe we'll get surprised. Hopefully we'll be playing meaningful baseball in September, but it was still, it was so heartbreaking.
So bad. Uh, Whatever.
Anyway,
Throw another challenge on the pile.
so
We'll
I'm on somebody's mailing list so I got a call yesterday. We'll finish with this. I got a call. I've been getting a bunch of calls from the New York Mets that I haven't been answering because I figure they're trying to sell me ticket packages. So finally yesterday they called and I wasn't doing anything. So I answered the phone and I didn't say hello. I didn't identify myself. I just said, no, I'm not available for the ninth inning.
Nah, that's funny. Did they laugh?
She laughed and I said, I'm sure you've heard that joke 1,000 times. And she said, no, it's actually the first time I've heard that joke. Everybody else I've called has volunteered for a knee transplant though. They're willing to give Edwin.
Right, to give it their knee. That's funny. Oh man.
Anyway, all right. Well, listen, good to see you. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Sounds great, Kevin. Have a
Take
good one.
care.
See you,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye.